Okay, today for day number 6 in my 12 days of Christmas paper crafting, this is the 24 edition, I'm making what I call ginger gables. It's like a gingerbread house, sort of Scandinavian looking little house. It's got a really steep roof. That's why it's called ginger gables, because the roof is so steep. But I'll tell you the story of this house. I'll show you the prototype. This is what I built first. Okay, I built this about a year ago, and for an event, I designed it for an event, and I'm like, this is ugly. This is just not pretty. And so I came up with a different design for the event, but I still liked the shape of the house. I decided I would elevate it and add a lot more decorative elements. For one thing, I really like kind of this leaf pattern. And so I added a lot more decorative elements, and I just think it's much more fun this way. And then I really like the difference in the roof. I think the roof looks much better. But that's how Ginger Gables was kind of inspired, or how it evolved. And so now I'm going to show you how to make it. I'll start with a brief introduction in Cricut Design Space, because that's the software that I use to make my houses, and then we'll do construction. And it's very simple. It's fast to make. It takes a long time to cut, but just like put your paper on and go do some errands, do something fun, or watch TV, and then you can assemble it in about 5-10 minutes, about probably 10 minutes, more like it. Okay, now we'll get started. Let me show you how the Ginger Gables gingerbread house file works in Cricut Design Space. I'm on the home screen. We can go to Canvas or New Project. They both go to the same place. So this is the canvas. And now we go down to the button on the lower left-hand side, Upload. Next, we go to this green button, Upload Our Image, and follow that with the green button in the middle, the Browse button. These are my files, the SVG files for the Ginger Gables house. There are two versions. One has the intricate gingerbread cutouts, and the other one is plain, so you can decorate it for yourself. The structure is exactly the same, so I'm going to open this one up. This is the one I want. When we get to this file, we hit the Continue button in the lower right-hand side. Next, we go to the Image Details screen, which I usually ignore. Now I'm going to the Upload button in the lower right-hand corner, and that looks like my file. So I'm going to reduce it in size so I can make sure I can see the whole thing, and it does look correct. So now I'm going to ungroup it. And one thing I do when I ungroup it is check that my 1-inch square is exactly 1 by 1, and it is. So I know that the file uploaded at the size I designed it. And we can throw away. We can discard the little square. And now I want to show you how to set it up. Basically, there are 3 pieces with score lines. These 3 pieces have score lines that we need to designate as score lines and attach them to the appropriate piece. So I've selected it in the Layers panel. I've selected this is the roof. This line in the middle I've grouped with the roof piece, and that is the score line. You see it kind of selected here. I draw my score lines in red, so the color box shows up as red. And then we go to the Operations menu and click Score. And now we have to connect them so that our Cricut knows that this piece and the score line belong together, and we do that with the Attach button. And here is the main body, the front body of the Ginger Gables gingerbread house. These are the score lines for the Ginger Gables, this angled score line. I'm going to click on just those lines. We see our red color box, and I always draw my score lines in red. Then we choose Score in the Operations menu, select the entire piece, Attach. We have to do the same thing with the back piece. This file is too big to cut out with 8.5 or even 12 by 12 cardstock without separating the 2 pieces because of the angles. So we have this back piece. go to the layers panel and open it up so you can see the angled score lines. So I'm just going to click that line, red, score, get both of them together and attach. Now basically our file is ready to cut. And I designed a little door. This door is 1% smaller than the opening, and I did that so it'll just sit right in. It'll fit there. This is the base, and these are the background pieces for the file. Now we can make it. We can cut it out, and because of all these intricate details, I think you need cardstock for intricate cuts, and that will work best. Also, it works better if you use a lighter cardstock, like a 65-pound cardstock, to make all these tiny cuts, and it helps to have a really sticky mat. Okay, now on to construction. Okay, let's get our Ginger Gables house done. This is the back piece, and I've already folded along the score lines for that one. And look how good it's going to look when we put the cardstock behind it. One thing is, these are little tiny holes, little tiny cutouts, so sometimes you need a pokey thing to get all the little holes poked out. All right, so that is the back piece. I love this roof pattern. Here's the roof. Isn't it pretty? And then here's the front piece. Now, let me show you. On one of my test ones, it cut out beautifully, the whole way. I modified some stuff because I tried not to have the cutout too close to the score line. So that was one of my tests. I think it looks kind of pretty like this, too. Okay, doesn't that kind of interesting, lacy? So I might make one like that. Okay, so I tried to cut it out, and the first one I did in red, and this is 65-pound cardstock, did not cut all the way through, and it kind of stopped at one point. I really don't know why, and then it started up again at the bottom. So for my second one, it did the same thing on the sides, but it cut out the front. This does take some time to cut out, so I'm going to go ahead and use this even though it's not a perfect cut. But the front looks really good. The windows are cut out. It's just not that noticeable. So here's like the only really hard step, and it's not really hard, but it's the only step that's a little bit challenging, and that would be folding along the score lines. I always experiment. I always try to find new ways to make stuff easier. So I use this to kind of guide my folding, and it really works pretty well. And then you have to gently fold it the other way. So I generally fold towards myself first and then away. And I also run my pattern through the cardstock through the machine a couple of times, so the score line gets scored at least 2 times. So that is the side flap. Let's get a little help. Or we could use our ruler, but you need something straight. So something with to help you keep this line straight, because again, the cutouts are so close to the line. My friend Emily always uses a bone folder to make sure they're nice and sharp. This is an easier line because it's at a 90-degree angle. It's not angled. It's just straight. So you just that one's just much more simple. Any angled line seems to be harder. So let's fold. This is the roof tab. This is what will glue down onto the roof flap, and that's really what gives it its good structure. The design near the cutouts, but let me show you the front. I just think the front, it just looks so good to me. I just think it looks really kind of Scandinavian. There. And the roof is done. So all the score lines, we've really done the hard part. Now let's glue the white pieces behind the intricate cardstock for Ginger Gables. And I'm using my Barely Art glue. And whenever you have this many cutouts, it's really important to apply the glue to the piece with all the cutouts as opposed to here. Otherwise, your glue is going to show everywhere. See, I didn't do my pokey thing. There. So the glue is most important around the edges. That's really where we need our glue, at the peak and the edges. I know that's plenty. Okay, let's apply this and try not to interfere with the score lines. We need to be able to fold it. So this piece is ever so slightly smaller than the front piece. So there's just a slight edge. You want to make sure that it can fold around it. There, our little house, Ginger Gables. Now I'll put this behind my sides, which did not cut out properly. Okay, make sure it folds. Do the same on the back and the roof line. Now all the pieces have their decorative backing, and we can construct the house. Basically, this is what I call an inset house, where the back piece is inset. It's glued inside the front piece. So we're going to apply glue to one tab. I'm going to do one tab at a time. Because of the angle, it is a little bit harder than on a regular house because of these kind of steep angles. And what you're trying to match up is this corner. And it's not straight because the sides are angled. So you can't really, you're just matching up the corner, not so much making it straight, which is different from most houses. Most of the little house projects I do. The other thing, because of the angle, it comes apart a little easier. So you have to let it dry for a second before you move on to the next side. We can go ahead and add a little, there, I see a little doodad that got stuck. See if we can pick it up while we're waiting for the glue to dry. There we go. Okay. Let's apply glue to this tab. You can use different background material. If you really want it to be translucent, you can use some vellum. You could use copy paper, which is relatively translucent, but I actually like the opaque paper. And I used heavy cardstock for this, just, sturdy. Got to make everything sturdy. That's kind of what I do. Okay, now we're going to glue this one in place. And if you shift it a little bit, it seems to adhere better. So I usually move it just a bit. Trying to match up the corners exactly. That one's sticking very well. There. Isn't it a neat shape? We'll let that dry for a second, and then we'll glue the roof tabs. So this is the way the base looks. And now we're going to glue these roof flaps on top. Wait, these roof tabs, these are the tabs. The part that glues down I call a tab. These roof tabs on top of the roof flaps. And this isn't going to show because we have our over roof. So I can be a messy gluer here. Someone recommended paper, what are these? Clothespins. They're really kind of nice. For one thing, they have a longer reach. So I actually think that works pretty well for this. If it was something more heavy duty, these are really inexpensive, like dollar store clothespins. If it was something heavy duty, I would need a binder clip, but for this purpose, I think the clothespins work well. And, make sure your house isn't getting shifted, so you're kind of keeping it square. See if it's holding. Now, it's roof time. So I'm going to apply glue along this surface, and then we'll center the roof on the house. Okay, I'm just holding it, trying to make sure it's square. Try not to add too much pressure and make it cattywampus. Make it crooked. We're done, really. Now, there is a base pattern in there. I haven't made a base yet for this one, but one thing about it, because it's kind of angled this way, it's very sturdy structure. Unlike a lot of the square structures, it's more like a pyramid than it is a regular house structure, and it's actually very sturdy. So look at this roof. Isn't that roof cool? I wish the sides had cut out. I'll try it again. I'll try to have a better model for you next time. Okay, but this is what I call Ginger Gables, and I just think it's a fun little house, and I hope you will join me and make it. Alrighty, y'all take care. Bye.